Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to part 9 in our series. So today we're going to be talking about negotiating, and that is a good skill to have, trust me. Not only as a freelance 3D artist, but as a human, right? I mean, go out and buy some furniture or a car and you will find out what I mean, okay? All right, let's talk about what negotiating is to begin with, right? It's basically a path you follow around, through, under, over obstacles to get to where you want to go. Not literally, but more towards a goal that you have in mind, or a certain price you want to hit, or a certain agreement you want to achieve, right? Now, I don't necessarily think that is the best definition in the world. I came up with a different one years ago, and that's the one I live by. And it's basically the ability to control a value perception, right? Negotiating is all about value and how people see that value, and whether you can control how they see that value, right? And of course, I'll explain all of that, yeah? So I'm looking at my cheat sheet here to make sure I don't forget anything. Keep in mind before we jump in that value is not always money. It can be many different things, right? Keep that in mind. Now, you might think, well, I don't know anything about negotiating. I've never done that before. I don't know anything about it. Well, trust me, you do. I mean, even as little babies, we get exposed to negotiating. I mean, have you ever seen a mother or father feeding a baby, with a spoon in the air and they're making those train sounds? What they're basically doing is they're making it more interesting and more appealing to take the next bite of the food, right? And it's increasing value. The baby suddenly enjoys the experience, thinks it's fun, thinks it's funny, and takes another bite, right? So basically that's negotiating. Let's say your mom says, hey, you're a kid, and they say, clean up your room, and when it's done, you can go to your friend's house. Basically, that's this for that, right? That's kind of the basis of negotiating. And if it has no value for you to go to your friends, right, then it's not really a good negotiation, because your mom's going to say clean up your room, otherwise you can't go to your friends, and you're like, no negotiation there. Okay, cool. Another example, let's say you have a coach, and the coach says, give me 20 push-ups in 5 minutes, and if you can do that, you can hit the showers, right? Again, an example. Alrighty, now keep in mind that there are different styles of negotiation, and there are also a lot of cultural differences. Now, many books have been written about negotiating, and it would take weeks and weeks and weeks to cover all of that, right? But we're going to go through the principles of it. So first of all, there are cultures where a very aggressive negotiating style is kind of the standard. On the other hand, there are cultures where that's a big no-no, right? I mean, if you are negotiating in Japan, then there are a lot of rules, and especially unwritten rules. And whatever you do, you don't want to display that aggressive style, right? In other cultures, let's say, for example, in Egypt, right, you got something for sale for $200, and their opening offer will be $10, right? In Western Europe, you would probably be offended and walk off. But in Egypt, that is not uncommon. It's kind of to get the ball rolling, right? Okay, so different styles. First style is the competitive or compete style. And the goal of that is to win. That is the very demanding, very aggressive approach. Think of someone sitting at a car dealership and saying, this is my bottom price, take it or leave it, otherwise I'm walking, right? That's a very risky approach, but that person can go out and go to 20 other dealerships, right? So you can get away with that. I wouldn't say it's a very nice thing to do, but it's a way to do it. Keep in mind, though, that if you are restricted in your options, it's very risky to do that, because if the other person says, fine, just walk off, then, you got nothing. Okay, next one. The accommodating style. Let's be friends. Let's be friends basically means that one party is giving away or compromising to the other, basically to keep them happy. Not a great way of negotiating, I would say. But what if the relationship is much more important than whatever the deal is on the table, right? What if it's crucial to maintain that relationship? You could get into a situation like that, and that might be a situation where the relationship is more valuable than any other value on the table. Okay, so that's the accommodating one. Then the avoiding one. What if you get pressured in a negotiation to make a decision and you're not comfortable because you don't have all the information, or you don't want to, or you have to do some more research or whatever? Avoiding is basically, I'll get back to you, I'll call you tomorrow on that, I need to think about that kind of thing. Not necessarily a position of strength, but it can be a tactic. Keep that in mind, right? I would say up until now, none of these are techniques that I would personally use while talking to a potential client, but it's important for you to know that they're out there, right? Either you choose them as a technique or a tactic, or maybe you identify yourself as that being your go-to style because that's your personality, right? Okay, the next one is compromising. So that is kind of a scenario where you give a little to get a little. Let's say you have a want in your head and a must-have in your head. Your want is the pie in the sky. Your must-have is your bare minimum, okay? You're probably not going to get what you want, because the best scenario is where you both get, something in the middle that's acceptable. That's like a win-win or lose-lose, yeah? But in the case of compromising, you are looking at, okay, I'll give in a little bit, you give in a little bit, we'll get to an agreement, and we got a deal. Then finally, you have the collaborative style, collaboration, working together. Working together, in my opinion, is by far the best way to approach a negotiation. What you're doing is you're helping each other to find value, right? Now, like I said, value is not always money. What if you have an open and honest conversation with the client, and the client says, well, listen, I cannot meet your demand as far as price is concerned, right? It's just not on my budget. That's fair, right? It's a very different thing if they say, hey, you're way too expensive, because that's a tactic, probably. If they say, I don't have it in my budget, that's fair. So what you can do without losing value, right, is say, listen, I will keep the price as is, so I won't go up, right? But in return, I want a longer contract, or I want a second deal in writing 3 months from now. So you get a different type of value in return, right? You maintain the relationship, you kind of meet each other in a win-win scenario. So I would go with the compromising style or the collaborative style if I could, okay? For sure. Alrighty. Now, like I said, we talked about different cultures, and if you are dealing with a negotiation, be aware of the culture you're dealing with. That brings me to the next point, and that is the stages of a negotiation, right? Now, number one, and by far the most important, is preparation. I mean, preparation is everything, absolutely everything. You need to know everything there is to know about your service or your product, or you need to be able to answer any question you might get. How long will this take? What do you use to do that? What will I get for this? And so forth and so on. But more importantly, you need to study your client. Know the person you're talking to if you can. Know their company, know their product, know their service. And most important of all, know what is valuable to them, right? I'll give you the example of the car sales guy. You're going to go and buy a car, and you know that the car salesman is not emotionally involved in that car, right? You are probably, but they're not, right? So what is the value proposition for that salesperson? Well, maybe they have to hit a certain sales number by the end of the month or the end of the quarter or even the end of the year to get their bonus, right? So the sell is their value. They want to sell. And if they have to compromise on the price a little to make that sell, then that will be good for them, right? So you need to find that out. What is the value? And you can find this out by asking questions, right? How are things going? Then you guys sell a lot of cars, how's business, that kind of thing. Is this car been sitting here a long time? I mean, if the sales guy says, listen, this car belonged to an old lady, what he's doing is he's trying to increase the value in your perception, right? So it's manipulating that value perception. If it's an old lady's car, then she probably didn't drive a lot, she was probably very careful, so it's in a good condition, and so forth, yeah? Okay, so preparation is everything. Do your homework, know whatever you need to know, and the more you know, the better you will be able to get into that negotiation, right? Okay, the second step is the exchange, making the actual offer. You have a service or a product you want to provide, and they have a certain price or offer they want to provide. That's basically where the negotiating starts, yeah? Then you have the value talk or the bargaining or the negotiating. This can be in one session, two sessions, or multiple sessions. Now, one of the things I said in the previous videos is the larger the client, typically the longer the process. If you are a freelance artist, this is going to take you a lot of time and a lot of effort. And one of the tactics could be that you have invested so much time that at some point you're just going to say yes because you can't afford to do 3 more meetings, right? Be careful with that. All right, and then of course the conclusion, close the deal, right? So you close the deal and then you execute it. And that is basically how you get through that, right? So in a nutshell, what I would do primarily is find out what your style is, right? Practice this. Negotiating is everywhere. I mean, absolutely everywhere. You may not notice it, but it's something you've been trained on since you were a little kid, right? It's all around you. And of course, know your stuff, do your homework, learn about the industry, learn about their industry, their business, know whether their business is doing well or not, what products they're developing, because these will all be things that will give you opportunities in the future, right? Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. There's one more video to go, video number 10, and then we conclude the series. Please let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure you hit that notification thing so you don't miss out on future videos, right? Thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.